My red Thunderbird is going to get a new bumper. This is the one that's off of the red car. You can see there's a hole right here. This bumper is off of a 79, which is that one right there. And you can see it's kind of doing the same thing, but it's not even close to, well, that. So we're going to use that chrome on this bracket. There are some differences in the bracket. So you can see this older car has this little weird cutout thing where this one's just solid. But the bolt holes look to be in the same spot, so there shouldn't be any reason that this shouldn't fit. So I'm going to attempt to just take this thing apart as semi-fast as possible. A lot of times these little clips like to break in half when they get around and hitting. If they do, it's no big deal. They make new bolts, you can buy these clips, whatever, if they break. And just like that, it broke and it's spinning underneath. So we're just going to keep going. I think we're just going to have to resort to literally cutting off every bolt. I'm going to resort to the death wheel. Finally got all the bolts ground out. Hanging up on the flap a little bit. There. License plate light out of here. Well, somebody's been in here before. So at this point you might be wondering why I didn't just take this bumper and bolt it onto the other car. And the reason for that is the chrome on the car that it's going back on was a little bit better, so I want to swap the chrome and keep it with the car. And the second reason is I wanted to take this apart and paint it anyway, just to help slow down the rust, because I am not a painter by any means, but I just want to at least attempt to make it look nicer and slow down any kind of rust that may already be here. Now, oh boy. I'm going to blow this out with an air hose outside. I've seen quite a few weird things in my lifetime, but a comb and a bumper is not one of them. There's not really going to be a good way to paint the inside of this bracket. But if we notice here, I can feel it on the inside. It feels fine. It just feels like the outside where it's just surface rust, but it's still real solid. You can see here, the only part that's thinner, where the metal's really starting to get ate away, is where the water gets trapped between the bracket and the mounting points. So I think as long as I get this part painted, it'll be fine. I mean, I'm going to paint the whole outside of it, but this part is the crucial part. So I sprayed the frame, at least what I could get to, with a self-etching primer. I'm going to cover it with this rubberized undercoating, and just to see how that works. I'm not a painting expert, I'm just trying to make it better than nothing. Alright, so I used up the whole can. It lays on pretty thick, which is what I was hoping for. Went on brown. See, I missed a spot there. Oh well, I'll have to do some more anyway. So the cap was black, so hopefully it dries that color. There's another spot right there. While I give my air compressor a break, I'm going to loosen up the bumper brackets. I'll break them all loose first and then take them out. Actually coming out very nicely. I'm pretty happy that came out easily. The last one I pulled out, I had to attach this to a tree and drive away, and even that wasn't enough to get it out. Yummy. We'll get this all sandblasted up and painted. Now I'm gonna get the other side. Well, that clip broke, but all the bolts came out. Passenger side here, all the bolts came out, but the clip broke for this one, so I gotta figure out how to get that one undone, but it's loose here. This side, all the bolts came out like normal, the one there and the two here. But this thing is rock solid, so I'm gonna have to smack it. I managed to get this last one out by taking a wrench, using this curved part here and prying it out, putting some pressure on it, and then the bolt reluctantly came out. You can see the ball of metal that's fused to it. So before I paint these, I was originally going to sandblast them, which is what I did here, but I discovered that that was taking way too long, and the sandblaster I had wasn't strong enough to knock off this big chunky stuff. So I'm gonna go through and experiment with some Roloc discs, wire wheels, and even one of these little, I don't know, rice cake looking things. See which one I like best. Okay, I like the wire wheel. Let's see how the Roloc disc does. So it looks like I'm going to use the wire wheel to knock all the chunks off and then use the Roloc disc to make it clean. Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So for these parts, I took the bumper bracket right there and these two mounts to the car wash and power wash them with soap and rinse them off with water real good, let them dry out in the hot sun. Then these pieces here, the hitch, license plate bracket, and then the side brackets, and then the actual threads for the bumper mount itself, they go on the inside of that bracket there. I just brake cleaned these all off to get all the residue and grease and grime off of them, and it'll be good enough for me. Got my pieces primed. I'll let this stuff dry overnight, and I'll flip it over and then prime the other side of it, and then do the same thing with the undercoat, and then I'll be ready to bolt it back together. So in a funny twist of events, I've actually sold the car and it is no longer in my possession, but promised the guy that I would finish this bumper project. So I'm going to show you how I got these carriage bolts out. They have a square on the back side of them. I grind them until they get almost smooth, and then I beat them out with a punch and a hammer. So I've been throwing the sparks towards something that isn't going to catch on fire, and if it does, you know, I can see it. I have safety glasses, a mask, and earplugs while I'm doing this. And I have a grinding wheel and not a cutting wheel. And just like that, a 5-minute project, 20 minutes later, finally comes off. Missed a little bit right there, but something tells me that nobody will notice it. So now I need to get some new carriage bolts. Square one, I have measured these with just a wrench, or you can do it with a tape measure. This is a 3/8 square hole. So I need to get some 3/8 carriage bolts, 4 of them on the outside. And then I'm going to take a stock of what I need to replace these guys here. You can buy these at a hardware store, these little clips. Let's see if I can get this one out of here. There. Just these little clips like that. Won't hurt to get a new one. They make new ones. And so all the bolts around around the entire bumper were all the same size, so I'm going to try to match these. Well, these are all pretty junk. Maybe I won't. Either way, I'm going to take a count of what I need. And then I need to get 2 more to put these back on the center. And then we'll be in business. With the car being sold, I was only able to snap a couple pictures with us being in a hurry. But we got it all bolted on there. And it's pretty heavy, so you got to use a jack and a couple people to get it level and bolted on at the same time. And then moving on to underneath, we didn't get bolts for the underside of the chrome. Those little U-clip style nuts, the hardware store I went to didn't have any. I looked them up on Amazon. You can get them there, but he was just excited to get the bumper back on, so I would assume he'll do that later. And you could just use regular nut in there too. There's enough room to get your fingers in there. And I thought that the undercoat turned out pretty good, and that should hopefully keep it from having the chance to rust a second time.